How's it going, guys? Me, Jaime Rodriguez with PureImageDesign.com, airbrush artist. We'll see you right here. I've been working on this portrait for about a few hours now, for the past couple days, and it came out pretty good. I want to talk to you about how I went about doing this portrait. There's a few different ways of doing it, and I want to talk about how I did this one today. This is pretty much paint without any pigment added to it, just pure base acrylic. And how I did this portrait was I start off with a light gray, and all I did was use this pretty much about 80% of the way, meaning I filled this bottle up most of the way, and I had just a couple drops of black Spectratex paint to it. And this, just by adding only a couple drops of black, this turned this into like a light gray. The more it acts as a candy, the more you add and go over that area, the darker it gets, because basically you're splitting up the pigment molecules and dispersing it into this base here. So if you go over the area more and more and more, it'll eventually turn black. So it's a great way to do a portrait. This can be your gray, your medium gray, your charcoal, and eventually your black. But it takes a long time to get to black. So what I do is after I lay down my whole portrait with its first initial light gray, I'll come back and then add a couple more drops of black and work in all the other colors. All you need is two mixes, maybe three, as compared to if you're doing a mixture of black into white ink and maybe using 6 colors. All you got to use is 2 different bottles and just work it very softly and just let it build up slowly. With the other colors, it's a little more gradual, a little more slower pace, but you do get a different look. This is just another way of doing it. To add to various ways of doing things. Another cool way of doing portrait is you could do it this way: add your base, add your black, and then tone it with some colors like some tans or some violets, pinks, whatever color you want your portrait to cast. You can do that with this, and you can do that with anything else as well. But this is just another idea on how to mix. The other way of doing it, like I said, is you get like 6 different colors with various amounts of white. This is a black and white portrait now, and you add more black as you go all the way up. The darker you get, the more black you add. But with this, I only use 2 batches, one about this dark and next just a little darker. And as you can see, you get a lot of value. It stretches a long way. You just got to be very precise when using this color, because if you go over it too much, it's going to get blotchy. So you have to be very delicate, all the details in there, and then as you go further and further, you take your time all the way through the piece, it's going to come out real accurate and real nice. If you're rushing through it, you're not taking time with your portrait, you're not examining every detail slowly, then it's going to show on your piece. So it's always good. How I like doing portraits is I take it inch by inch and examine every area piece by piece, and do the portrait as if it was a bunch of little mini portraits in one, kind of like a grid. I break it up into 50 squares in my head and work it in detail. I'll like isolate this one little area like that and just work that area, and then I'll isolate that area, and so on and so on, and that way you maximize the detail in this whole piece. Okay, so that's how I pretty much did this portrait, and at the end I was like, I need to warm this portrait up. So I grabbed again my extender base, and I added a few drops of brown to it and made this kind of tan color. You can see it on the camera. It's like a brown color, but when it sprays real light tan. And then once I was done with the black and gray, I warmed this whole piece up and get my paint mixer and just glazed it over just like that, over this whole piece. That's kind of how it looked. And I just lightly glazed over the whole thing, and I warmed the whole piece up, give it a nice tan look to it. And it gave it a kind of vintage look as well, kind of like an old-time photo. And, as photos get older, they tend to brown. This is the kind of effect this brought to it. But again, we're using the Renegade Spirits for this. Real good, solid Badger airbrush. I've been using this for all my pieces. And then we're using the Spectratex paint. There's other brands out there that you can apply this technique to, and they may have different names for their brands. But again, all this is just a base paint, and then you're toning it with whatever color you want to do your portrait with. But pretty much another idea I wanted to talk about and bring up to you guys is, a lot of people have problem with their detail work, and they're like, man, I can't do good detail pieces. It just doesn't seem to come out. And the reason why is you guys ain't slowing down. You're not taking your time. You're not being relaxed and patient and taking it slow. When I started out, I wasn't patient. I'd rush through my whole piece like it was some sort of contest, race contest. And that's not the case when doing good work. You got to go about it the opposite way. You got to take your time, relax, go slow, examine the information bit by bit. This is all about information. We're seeing information in our reference. We're taking the information, we're transferring it on canvas. So it's up to us to take our time with that information. The better we get at examining these, the information, the reference, the better we'll get at doing portraits or any sort of realistic image. Another thing that's very important is the precision and the control of the airbrush. You may be able to do a great drawing, but the control ain't there yet. So you got to practice and get that control down. And once you get the control, the artistic ability and the control will meet together and they'll partnership up and you'll get a real nice piece done. Another great element to doing good detail work is just barely working the trigger, bit by bit. And when I mean barely work the trigger, I mean when I'm doing pieces like this, that there will be times when I'm only working the trigger maybe a hair, and I'm only pulling the trigger back just a tad. It looks like I'm pulsating the trigger. But what I refer that to as soft shade detail work. You got to be a good soft shader. How do you become a good soft shader? Well, you learn to control that trigger very slightly, and that'll determine how soft your line work is. So when you see me doing something like this, I'm barely touching the trigger like this and pulling back, and those lines are coming out so subtle and so soft. So that's another good element to a good detail piece. But I just want to show you guys this portrait I just got done doing. It's for a relative. I thought it came out pretty cool and be a good video to post up online. Again, I hope this information is real helpful. I know when I started out, I wish information was that readily available like it is these days, and so I'm bringing it to you to give back. But till next time, guys, check out my site, PureImageDesign.com. This is Jaime Rodriguez signing out. Till next time, I'll catch you guys later.